Hey everybody, it's Rachel Storley. I am in beautiful Fillmore County today, which is right next door to Houston County, where Giants of the Earth Heritage Center is located. And as you can see, it's an amazing day. It's the 3rd of December and there's no snow yet, but the earth is a little harder packed. I'm here at a wonderful farm and I'll show you that in just a second. Hey Heidi!
Hey!
Tell us more about yourself and your amazing farm.
Sure. So my name's Heidi Eger. I run Radicle Heart Farm. I raise 100% grass-fed lamb and mutton in beautiful Fillmore County. I'm a little bit north and west of Newburgh, if you've ever been to the delicious Newburgh Bakery.
So many times.
Oh, it's so good. It's like the best. Anytime anyone comes to visit and they're like, why do you live here? I'm like, well, many reasons, but the Newburgh Bakery is one of them. I also just love this area because of the great people and the beautiful landscape. It's a great place to have sheep because they can graze on the lands that aren't good for tilled crops, and you can still get a great, delicious agricultural product from them. So I've been in this area for 3 years. I was participating in an incubator farm program run by Nick and Dana Burtness-Wynn. So I came down to the area so that I could farm on their land without having to pay rent. We did a work trade for land access, and then they were also incredibly helpful in providing introductions to people and tools and advice and sort of venting space if you were like, oh, this isn't working, why not? So it's been a really great experience and I want to be here for a very long time.
Well, thank you for being a part of this operation today, and we're really excited to meet your beautiful animals.
All
Let's
right.
go on a trip.
Let's do it.
Oh, bring the scraps.
Oh, scraps.
Yeah, that's how we're going to get them to love me today, right? I
We'll
get to feed them
try.
scraps.
So these, I have 12 ewes right now. They are a breed called Katahdin, so they're a hair sheep instead of being a woolly sheep. So they look nice and warm and fuzzy in the winter. They have plenty of hair to keep them warm and dry in the winter, but then in the spring, instead of having to be shorn, they'll actually just shed their hair more like a goat would.
Okay.
Lots of people see them and think they're goats. They're definitely not. I am a sheep person, not a goat person. And these particular 12 ladies are fairly new here. I picked them up from a farmer up in Nurstrand 3 weeks ago. So they're still a little bit leery of me and what I have to do. But we'll see if they'll come over for scraps. Yeah, come on over. What do you think?
They're very pretty.
Katahdins are fun because they have lots of different colors. There's browns and dark brown and black, and then a lot of just nice white. So they like cabbage scraps and broccoli scraps, and then there's some squash in here. And usually they get very excited about squash. We'll see.
Yum, yum. So do you name your animals?
I am very bad about naming things.
Okay.
I find it very stressful.
Mm,
But if other people give them names, I'm happy to call them by their names. But I just what if you don't like the name I give you? I don't know. Okay. So these will be moms come May. And their gentleman collar will show up in a few weeks.
Ooh.
So I buy a Texel ram, which is a wool breed of sheep, but another sheep that's been bred for delicious meat, and they're really stocky, and Katahdins tend to be a little bit more willowy framed.
Okay.
So it's a really good blend to mix the Katahdin ram with the Texel ram with the Katahdin sheep. And I buy a ram from Charlie Ray over at Portland Prairie Texels in Caledonia.
Okay. Now who's this?
This is my barn cat Mama.
Hey Mama.
She used to be unspayed, which is how she got her name, but now she is a responsible, not baby making machine. So she's my rodent control around the farm.
Absolutely.
And my emotional support
Yes.
on days when things are stressful.
Yes.
But
How are they going to do with snow? Do you know?
They are totally, as long as they have wind protection, they are totally fine in the snow. The only thing that causes them problems is if it rains or sleets and then gets really windy. As long as you keep them well fed, they can easily keep themselves dry. And I have lots of farm friends who have a barn available, and the sheep never want to be in there.
Oh, funny.
Yeah, so it's convenient because I don't have a barn here.
Aside from the wonderful healthy snacks that you give them, like right now today, what is their main food?
So they eat hay all winter long.
Okay.
It's 100% grass-fed flock, so they never get any sort of grain. So this is a 60% alfalfa, 40% grass hay mix from the McCormick's over in Caledonia. And it's nice stuff, and they'll do just fine eating. Usually I give them second cutting, which is, so there's at least first and second cutting each year. On good years, the hay producers can get a third cutting, and second and third cutting hay is fine and high in protein, high in fiber. So they'll do just fine just eating hay.
Wonderful. Is it possible to come out here and take a tour with you if it's prearranged?
Ooh, sure, that would be really fun. The most fun time to come out is probably, well, for sure once they're out on pasture on grass. That's a much more interesting thing to watch. See them get to decide what to eat first in a new paddock. And there will be lambs starting in middle to end of May.
Okay.
So that would be a very fun time.
A very good time, absolutely. By the way, you've got like a living Daniel Boone hat right now. It's hilarious.
She likes shoulders.
Oh, well, Merry Christmas from Lil Mama and all of the beautiful sheep here at Radicle Heart Farms. Thank you for providing us with the PINNEKJØTT, ladies. And thank you, Heidi.
Yeah, absolutely. Come on in and see the freezer.
Thanks, Heidi. All right. Wow, you are packed to the gills in here. You've got such great produce and meats going on.
I've got a nice mix of like local veggies that I've preserved and that the wonderful people at Snowpack have preserved. And then at least half of this freezer is lamb and mutton that I have raised. So we've got some brats on top and some ground mutton. A lot of people think that mutton is really strongly flavored and gamey and not pleasant. I raise 100% grass-fed Katahdin. They are bred for meat quality, and they're really lean animals, so they've got really nice flavored meat, even as older animals. So today we will be working with this cut, which is I don't know the actual term for this, but it's basically if you were to buy this in the store, it would be cut down the middle, and it would be 2 racks of lamb. Okay. And we're going to start with that.
All right, the ultimate goal, the Norwegian dish that is oftentimes eaten on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day on the west coast of Norway called PINNEKJØTT. Thanks for going on this adventure with us, Heidi. All right, well, we prepped our work surface. It's nice and clean and sanitized, I hope. You have a giant saw. Tell me more about this saw. I'm a little bit unfamiliar with what this tool is and where you acquire one.
So I borrowed this from the Thompsons. They also raise sheep and they're venison hunters, so they have useful butchering tools. And normally you could make PINNEKJØTT without sawing it in half, but because this is a double rack, we are learning as we go here, but I read online that you need to get the bone marrow out. It won't cure properly with the bone marrow in there, so we are going to have to saw it in half.
Yes.
And this has been thawing for a little bit, but it's still a little frozen, which I think will be a good blend of easy to work with, but still firm meat.
Sure. I'm going to say a Norwegian term, lykke til, and that means good luck.
Thank you.
Yes! Look at what we did! Look at what you did!
Looks good.
Does definitely interesting.
Looks like it's going to be delicious. So I read a recipe or some directions for just general dry curing meat, and they said to make sure that you took out the bone marrow. I'm assuming that's because it is not meat, and so it would cure differently or go rancid faster. I'm not sure. This is all a giant experiment from this point forward.
Yes.
All right, so now I have a scale, and according to the internet, we're gonna weigh the meat, and then we need a 2% of the weight of the meat, that amount of salt. So we can do this in our heads, right? No, we're gonna use a calculator. But we have 1,472 grams, which is, oh, I forgot this thing doesn't do pounds. 52 ounces, whatever that is in pounds.
Okay.
And then we've got some kosher salt that we'll weigh out after we pause and do some math.
Sounds good. We're taking a break because maybe you can help describe this, but we had a special guest during our cutting process.
Yes. So this is a house that is absolutely lovely and cozy, and it has a septic tank instead of a septic field. So about once a month, the tank fills and Moss Pumping Service comes out and takes it away for us.
And he's right out the window, right there, right over there somewhere. Anyway, it gave us a really nice opportunity to have some tea together, and my throat coat tea is tasting fabulous. Thank you very much.
Yes.
So my big question now is, of course, you already know this, but Giants of the Earth Heritage Center was founded to preserve and interpret the history of the Norwegian Ridge area. Obviously, the population here is diversifying, and we're not all just Norwegians anymore. And we want to make sure that people know that they can celebrate any culture when they are utilizing the services and programming at Giants. So this leads me to my question for you, which is, are you Norwegian?
I am a little bit. My grandpa's mother came from Norway when she was 16. She came all by herself and went to a boarding school in Kansas and worked as a laundress. And then learned English while she was there, and then ended up in Byron, Minnesota.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
yeah.
And then what other elements of your family's culture do you find yourself gravitating to or kind of celebrating?
I would say Norwegian is the strongest. As a whole, we don't really do very many sort of cultural family traditions. But the Norwegian has managed to stick more than the others. My dad's side of the family is German, but it was I think a smaller family, and my grandma didn't really like to cook, and so there were no sort of like food traditions that stuck. So yeah, Norwegian is the main one, and even that is just a few things. We make lefse and apparently now PINNEKJØTT.
Yes, it's gonna be your family offering, I think, every year at Christmas now.
Yes. So the sister who's one above me, I'm the youngest of three. Her name is Andrea, and she is also in the local foods world, and wants to raise elderberries for both flowers and fruit. She makes a really delightful elderflower lemonade and an elderflower champagne, and is just really excited to raise perennials, and then the sheep will graze in between the rows and keep the grass down and let the plants that we want grow.
So are we talking like next growing season for this, or is it going to take a little more time to develop that?
A little more time, okay. Yeah. We've got a business plan, so now we're just looking for sort of permanent land access to plant perennials on. The sheep are great. They're really mobile, and can handle rented land and short-term leases, but elderberries take 3 years to grow to a crop, and so you need to know where you're going to be for a while in order to plant those.
For sure. So we should get a hold of you if we have some land opportunities to share.
That would be great.
Anybody who's watching this video.
Lovely. Yeah, we're looking for 40 acres, ideally with a house, but we are willing to build if we need to.
Since it is a season of reflection and mindfulness and thankfulness, maybe some mentors or friends that you like to do a shout out for that have helped you get here.
Oh, the list would be so long. So I've worked on some really great farms. If people are closer to the Twin Cities and looking for lamb, Whetstone Farm out of Amory, Wisconsin was my first sort of deep dive into sheep. Locally, Nick and Dana Burtness-Wynn have been amazingly helpful. Carol and Rodney Thompson and their son Kyle will just drop anything to help me with any sort of sheep question. Dana says that the folks here have forgotten more about farming than she will ever know, and I definitely feel that way every time I talk to the Thompsons, and they're just so kind and generous with their knowledge. But really, basically every single neighbor and every single person that I've met here has been absolutely lovely and so generous with their time and knowledge. And Charlie Ray from Portland Prairie Texels, I called last year like a week before I needed a ram because we had a illness show up in my friend's goat flock that was also on the land, and so our plan had been to borrow our gentleman collars for our flocks, and that became not a responsible option. And so Charlie sold me a ram on very short notice, and is also just one of those people who's incredibly kind and generous with what they know, and has come out to look at my flock when I've been just almost in tears and like, everything looks terrible. And he's just got this very calm demeanor, and he's like, it's fine. Everything's fine.
Fantastic. Yeah. Well, it's a good community, especially for young farmers who are just kind of finding their way. And thank you so much for inviting us into your home, and I hope you have a fantastic holiday.
Thank you. Happy holidays to all of you.
Okay, Heidi is pouring. How much did you need of salt now, did we figure out?
294 grams. Getting there. So the salt obviously is what is going to help it dry out, which is what's going to preserve it. And then this dish is steamed. Is it also soaked in water? I can't remember.
I think recipes vary.
Okay.
But I think the big deal is the word pinne means sticks. And the old way of doing this is that you would stack sticks in the bottom of your pan, and then you either boil it on there or you're roasting it somehow.
So cool.
Yeah, it's gonna be really neat.
That was the thing that first got me interested, because it's supposed to be birch twigs, right?
Yes, birch twigs, exactly. Birch sticks. PINNEKJØTT. And jött is meat, of course.
So I guess I'm just gonna sprinkle it with salt. And then we put it in the regular refrigerator for 3 days to let the salt soak in and start pulling out moisture. This is gonna be a lot of salt.
Good luck.
All right. I'm gonna do some of it, and then we should recheck our math one more time just to make sure.
Okay, sounds fair.
So yeah, put it in the fridge. It'll start pulling out moisture. And then we're going to put it in a mini fridge that we have a temperature gauge on, so that we can force the mini fridge to be a little bit warmer than normal. You want your curing meat to be between 50 and 60 degrees at 75-ish% humidity. And then we'll leave it until it has lost 32 or 35% of its weight. And that's how you know it's done, apparently.
What a process.
Yeah.
4 to 6 weeks is what I keep reading for the curing time. We are going to be under the wire, but I believe it might be okay because of the size of this cut.
Yeah, these are definitely smaller than a traditional commercial grain-fed lamb.
Okay.
And I think the point of curing it is to preserve it and to concentrate the flavor. And so I think even if it doesn't get its full cure time, it still will have concentrated flavor, and we'll get at least a taste of what it would be at its full glory.
Absolutely.
All right, let's do that math again.
Yeah, let's talk about that salt. We were a little bit wrong.
So I should know that I can't just hear numbers and remember them. So it wasn't supposed to be 294 grams. It was supposed to be 29.4 grams. So we brushed off a bunch of the salt, contaminated a bunch of salt, but that's fine. Salt is cheap. So we have probably a little bit more than 29 grams on this meat. And we're just going to put it in the Ziploc. They should both fit in there, and then I'll stash them in my fridge for 3 to 4 days. And then when our equipment arrives to set up our mini fridge, then we will reconvene and move it to its curing chamber.
That's right. So this has been a fantastic introductory day to you and to Radicle Heart Farms in general. We've made friends with the sheep family, the flock, and with Heidi, and we're so grateful for your time and investment and energy with this project, and I'm looking forward to an amazing Christmas meal with you.
Yes. I have been wanting to do this, so it's nice to have a buddy because I never would have tackled this on my own. All right, so we have our mutton ribs in a plastic bag with as much of the air sucked out or pushed out as possible. And we're just gonna stick it in the fridge for 3 to 4 days, and then we'll move on to part 2.
All right, until then, goodbye from Radicle Heart Farms and Heidi. Part 2 coming soon. Don't stop munching on my account.